about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy aligning your identity with your income. Advanced goal setting for founders using the precise method. None other than Mr. Nicholas Clapham.
Great to be here, Daniel. Thank you for having me on the show.
Welcome, Mr. Nicholas on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
So, my name is Nicholas Clapham. I'm from the UK originally, and I am a life coach, goal setting expert, and generally spending most of my time trying to free people from that place of being stuck and to try and make sure that nobody ever has to go through what I went through in the past years,
Mm-hmm.
and with some neuroscience thrown in as well, just for fun.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and
Sure.
wisdom to the world, Mr. Nicholas. Thank you. And today let's talk about the look on their faces when your family doubts that you'll be successful. Oh my goodness. So let's go to the
Yeah.
beginning. Can you describe a specific moment when you first saw the look of doubt from a family member regarding your dream? What did feel like in an instant?
I think that moment is something which a lot of people who are entrepreneurially minded experience. And for me, it was, I think, after about my third or fourth idea for starting a business had not really taken off. And I was describing what I was going to do next and what my new plan was. And I remember just spotting that moment where they glanced at each other, and one of them, I think, just raised their eyes a little bit, just a slight eye roll, and you could see that moment as they took a deep breath. And it wasn't that they said anything, it was just that look, that moment of doubt that you could read on their faces. And I think for me, the thing which hit very hard with that as well was not just that they doubted me, but it was that actually, if I was honest about it, I doubted myself as well internally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very, very difficult place to be in. When you start to doubt yourself, when you're entrepreneurially minded, when you've got an idea and you're really trying to put a lot of belief behind it, that can be a really hard hit, and that can be really hard to maintain the momentum that you would need to actually become successful.
Mm. Interesting, Mr. Nicholas. What was the doubt from your family more about fear for your well being or a genuine disbelief in your capability?
I
What
think
did you
actually,
learn? Yes, what did you learn
mm,
to tell the difference?
I think the interesting thing about it is that it didn't really matter what they thought for
Yes.
me overall. In the end, I had to actually realize if I'm actually going to do this, I have to actually do it. And in some ways, that brings us back round to the topic of your show and the books and so on that affect us and set a direction for us. Because the the first book that I've mentioned, which we talked about very briefly earlier, um, that book originally had a goal setting model in it many many years ago, and it started me on my journey into coaching and NLP. And when I went off and did my original training, I was very, very lucky that the trainer there taught me a different model. And I just assumed that that was the model you got taught on the professional courses. And it was literally only, what, 2 years ago now that I rang him up and I said, where does this actually come from? I'd like to read some more about it and go into detail on it. And he said, oh, I made that one up. That one's mine. And I
Mm.
thought, that's amazing. And he said, well, he's not teaching it anymore. So I said, are you happy for me to share it with everyone? And he said, absolutely, go for it. So that's the precise model. That's what I've been using ever since. And so I went back to my notes from that course. I went back to the original book, which was the Introducing NLP by Joseph O'Connor and John Seymour. And I went in depth into the precise model, and I found that actually the reason for why I wasn't actually achieving my goals was in that model. The reason why I wasn't following through was in that model. And once I realized that was there, I realized that my family, my friends didn't actually have anything to worry about anymore, because I wasn't going to fall short on this one. I'm just going to keep on taking action until I get there. I just have to apply the models to myself.
How did the doubt, especially from people whose opinion mattered so much, affect your own private confidence? Did it ever make you a question yourself?
I think historically, yes. Not so much on this particular sort of where I'm at in the world now and the last one that I raised with them, but there were previous sort of attempts at business ideas and things that went under. And I think basically what happened is I'd seen that look back then as well. And the lack of belief in me started to eat away and is part of what fueled a pathway of self sabotage that went on.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of also tied into I have three books which I wanted to mention today, and one which I think is probably one of the most important books I've ever read, which is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all.
Hmm.
And the basic premise of the book can be summarized down to, if we have a fear of something, all fears are actually the same. And they all come down to one sentence, which is, I can't handle it if dot, dot, dot. And all of us, the problem we have there is that we don't fill in what is the dot, dot, dot. So once you start to fill in those, I can't handle it if dot, 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 you start to question, okay, when you actually know what it is that true? And quite often it's not true. We can handle whatever it is, or we can get together things we need in order to handle it. So for me, one of the fears was, I can't handle it if I disappoint them again,
Mm, definitely, yes.
or I can't handle it if I fail. And actually, I've failed many, many times, and failing is very, very important for entrepreneurs. This is something we start talking about and see everywhere nowadays. It's
Hmm.
only by failing that we get feedback.
Yes, definitely. So, on the fuel and transformation, Mr. Nicholas,
Mm.
they are saying, don't get mad, get even by succeeding. Did you consciously use the doubt as a fuel, or what is a more subconscious drive to prove yourself?
No, 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 far from it. Um, Once the recognition came in of the things which I hadn't been doing, once I realized the only thing stopping me was my own fears, it wasn't about them at all. They will believe in me or not believe in me. That's their life, that's their world, that's their experience. It's up to me if I choose to allow it to affect me or not. And actually, if it's affecting me, all it's really doing is feeding fears of my own, which I haven't answered. So once I did that and started applying my models properly, the models I've been using these models for, God, 15 years plus. And I hadn't realized that I wasn't really using them for myself. I'd used them for my clients multiple times over the years and seen them getting wonderful results, but then I hadn't used it for me. So the precise goal setting in particular, there is a step in that when you're setting a goal for yourself, is to question, what will be the impact? What will be the impact of achieving your goal? And a lot of people miss the point of what that's actually about, that it's not just about what will be the positive impact of achieving your goal, which gives you something to work towards, some positive motivation, but also to consider, seriously consider, what would be the negative impact of achieving your goal. Because once you have an idea of what would happen if you achieved it in a negative sense, quite often that's where most of the issues are with actually pursuing something. That's where most of the self sabotage comes from. Someone has an idea, and because they haven't consciously acknowledged that there is a potential danger in being successful in this way, they self sabotage, they stop themselves. There's something that stops them from moving forward.
So, Mr. Nicholas, at what point the motivation shift from "I'll show them" to "I'll show myself"? What's their turning point?
I think for me, it wasn't ever really about showing them. It was always much more a case of saying, how can I do something better than before? How can I take this to a new level? There's a metaphor that exists, which I believe in very strongly, which is this suggestion that there's two ways to have the tallest building in a city. One is to knock down all the other tall buildings until yours is the tallest one left. And the other way is to build the tallest building yourself. And I've always been the sort of person where my focus was to build the tallest building. So if I thought that people didn't believe in what I was doing, my pursuit of success was never from the position of I'll show them. It was from a, okay, they don't believe me. I'm going to be successful anyway. And once I'm up there, it'll be great for them and they can enjoy it as well. I'm not going to
Mm.
charge admission from the top.
Yes. So, do you ever create emotional or physical distance from your family to protect your belief in yourself and your path?
I don't think so, no. Instead of distancing myself from them, I instead strengthened myself and built up my core self. And part of it was about using the structures I knew and that I've developed since to really get in alignment with what I wanted to achieve. Because I think once you are grounded and you're aligned in yourself, you don't have to distance yourself.
Mm. So, what was the single most important thing you did to build your own unshakable belief when the people closest to you did not share it?
The first most important step was setting my goal out properly using the precise model. That was the first thing. Having done that, I was able to apply things from feel the fear and don't do it anyway into that to make sure that all of the fears were properly dealt with. And then I have a follow up course which I teach for people that have learned how to set precise goals. And it's called Fives for Your Future. And very much the structure on it is built around these these 5 levels of things we have to take into account. And the issue that most people have is they set a goal, and if they aren't getting close to it, if they aren't achieving it, they change the goal. And I was taken back to actually a model from Walt Disney. So, part of the Disney creativity strategy, which is that when you set a target, something that you're going to achieve, you create the plan to get there, but then you take that plan to a critique stage and you critique the plan, but never the dream, never the goal. So the plan itself might not be good enough to get you there. So you critique the plan, but the goal remains the same. And I realized that I had to do the same in my life. And so this was where the fives course came in. And within that, it became down to 5 levels. And the first thing to fix was environment. So I had to make sure I was in the right environment to get there. I had to make sure I was doing the right behaviors to get there. I had to make sure I had the right skills to get there. Then I had to sort out my beliefs and my values. And part of that is another system which I use for mapping out belief systems which are operating, because sometimes you can have one that's operating against itself. Two opposing belief systems operating at the same time directly against each other. And that's something which needed a bit of fine tuning and reworking. And then lastly, identity.
Mm.
And so then identity
Identity.
shifting processes started to come in.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Mr.
Sure.
Nicholas. So, were there moments of failure or setback where you feared and doubting family members were right? How did you push through the specific kind of pain?
I have to say that since I took these steps, at no point in any of the setbacks have I had a moment where I thought to myself, I wonder if they're right or not, because everything was set up already to deal with it. Part of precise goal setting, in fact, the last step of precise goals, the E of precise, or the second E of precise, more to the point, is
Mm-hmm.
evolve. And that means when you're setting the goal, before you even take your first step, you set out what will you change, what will you evolve in your process if things aren't progressing. So, for example, I had an issue with my website where things just didn't seem to be taking off. People didn't seem to be coming to the page. And I already had it in mind exactly what details on that page I was going to change if I wasn't getting the sort of turnaround from people that I wanted to get. And even today, I had another realization with it, another thing which I need to change if the current iteration doesn't have the effect that I hope it does. So for me, it's not really a worry anymore about whether or not I will make it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry if people will believe in me or not because I'm not done yet
You're just only beginning.
in some
Oh.
ways because every day is a new beginning.
A new beginning, for sure. So, Mr. Nicholas, what are your short term and long term goals?
My short term goal is to get enough people into precise goal setting to build out a community of people who can actually start helping each other and supporting each other through that process. And the follow up to that is I don't know if you're familiar with SMART goals at all, which
Smart
have
goals. Yes, go
SMART
ahead.
goals. So,
Mm-hmm.
SMART goals have been the industry standard for years and years and years now, but unfortunately, they are misapplied. And there is not a single person I've ever met who was actually inspired by a SMART goal. So, my long term goal, my long term hope is that the precise model will become the industry standard. And I really do think that if that can get out there, that will transform the lives of countless people around the world. And tied into that, actually brings me back to the last book that I was ever going to recommend. It took me a while to think about it because I was going through, and there's many books which have influenced me over the years, and this one, well, the first time I read it, I would say, in a way, it terrified me.
Mm.
And that book is by Napoleon Hill, and it's Outwitting the Devil.
Oh, okay.
So it's a lesser known book of his. Are you familiar with it at all?
No.
No.
Can you tell us?
So it's this one here, Outwitting the Devil, and effectively it's written as an interview or like the
Okay.
transcript of an interview. And the basic premise is that the author has managed to, in some way, pin down the devil to have a conversation, and during which the devil is required to answer honestly all of the questions he is asked. And the idea is that the questions that are asked are about how the devil manages to control people, to manipulate people, to draw them into his control. And effectively, what is described as a hell on earth, which is people just carrying on in a grey life, a life where they're not really taking action, where they're not really moving forward, where they're stuck. And the first time I read it, I realized that's where I was. I was stuck. I was in this grey world where every day was pretty much the same. There was no light, no life, no real progress, no moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, I found myself thinking, I don't know if there's a devil or not. I don't know if there is a God or not. I'm somewhat religious, but not very religious. But at the same time, the idea that we've all been convinced that the idea of what the devil wants from us is for us to burn in a hell of some sort, I think is a misdirection. And actually, if you were to think about what heaven means to you or a perfect existence means to you, it wouldn't be sitting around in a day to day job which you hated, not achieving your goals. You'd be thinking about a life where you felt vibrant, had your best day, but every day. And you were pursuing goals and dreams and feeling motivated and alive. And the thing which scared me about that book was how real it felt. So, this idea of escaping this, what is referred to in the book as drifting, was an idea which started to really settle into my soul, into my core at that point. And once I read that, that was the moment where I realized this can't be a question of whether I will achieve this or not. It can't be a question of whether or not I will help people to succeed or not. It has to be just something which I have decided I will do. And a real decision is something which, that's it. You have decided. It's not that there's an alternative left over. If
Mhm.
you're still considering the alternative, you didn't really make the decision.
Mr. Nicholas, thank you for that recommended books. And of
Hmm.
course, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And
Thank you.
what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
My first piece of advice would be, from a personal perspective, learn how to set precise goals. For me, that has transformed my life completely, was just understanding a simple model. And my take on it is I'm not interested in getting clients for life.
Mm,
For me, when I work with people, I give them the skill set, I teach them how to apply the stuff for themselves so that in the future they don't need me anymore. And that
mm.
is my big hope for people moving into the future.
Mr. Nicholas, I have a new podcast coming, Coaching 101. Would you please be my guest and let's talk about coaching over there?
Absolutely, I would love to join you on that podcast.
Thank you, thank you. And well, thank you for that advice. So, how do you find success now? Has it meaning changed since you first set out to prove your family wrong?
I think for me, success I've known for a very long time, even before that, was not about money.
Mm.
It was always about having strong, healthy relationships with my family and around me, and getting to pursue the dreams that I really wanted to pursue.
This experience often changes how we support others. Are you now hyper vigilant about believing in people's dreams or more cautiously realistic because of what you went through?
I think I've always been someone that believed in people. Alongside doing this sort of coaching, I've been a fencing coach for many, many years. And one of the things which I found myself in the situation of quite often is of working with people that other coaches had given up on or didn't believe in. But those people had an idea of their own about what they wanted to achieve. And I've always believed that if a person sets their mind to something, that they can do it. And I've got the toolkit to help people to achieve those goals. So my realism goes as far as just pushing people to make sure they've ticked all the boxes and to make sure that I can guide them through that process indirectly or directly. I've never disbelieved someone particularly, but I do know how to spot when they are setting themselves up for self sabotage.
Mr. Nicholas, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in sixth season as well, comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101, our fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101, fourth season, and my baby podcast, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101, and Coaching 101 coming next month. So, please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr.
Fantastic.
Nicholas, finally, if your younger self, full of doubt and facing those skeptical looks, could you see now, what do you think that look on their face would be?
Honestly, it doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, because you let it go, right?
Hmm.
Let it go and put in your mindset to be successful.
Exactly that.
Definitely, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Nicholas. Welcome. So
Thank you
can you
very much for having
please,
me.
yes, so can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
So, I would like to invite all the listeners to come and visit my page at which is safeandsoundcoaching.com /precise masterclass information. And that's the great starting point to get my current offer for how to get the precise masterclass and get yourself started and freed up as quickly as possible.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Nicholas Clapham, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering coaching will rise. So, Mr. Nicholas, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome, people. See you soon.